I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way.
Oh, I love your voice.
I always was in love with the movies. When I saw Star Wars for the first time, I was like, okay, so there's Darth Vader and Mark Hamill, but like, who puts that all together? And they said that's George Lucas. I said, I want to do that when I grow up. But it took a long time to give myself permission to explore that. I think I needed these 2 decades of one, studying acting and having experiences on set myself, and then evolving into coaching and teaching, so that now 20 years later, in a position to finally direct my first feature, I'm much more well prepared than I would have been if that opportunity had materialized when I was younger. The last year has been like perpetual, consistent healing. Spirituality is what grounds me.
This is something that definitely every creative person needs. Just opening this door inside of you, and it guides you somehow.
Felt like I was meeting myself more, like detached from everything, and it was just like I was like, oh, I'm here meeting this, meeting God, meeting this energy.
If you're coming from an unhealed place, it keeps you small. It keeps you in fear.
We're starting at the beginning. Valeria.
And here's my cue to introduce you. Yes.
Exactly.
Welcome. Adam Davenport is a multi-hyphenate creative. He's an actor, acting coach, producer, and also soon to be feature director. What I want to ask you, I also wanted to say that you're also founder of the International Acting Studio, which we're going to talk to you about because this is very exciting and a big thing. What I want to start with is a person who lived pretty much everywhere across different countries and continents. Was there a particular moment of your life when you felt that you absolutely need to change the scenery, go somewhere else, expand your horizons, and how did it happen then?
I think I realized as an adult that home for me was my creativity. So wherever my home would be, whatever project that I was working on at a given time. So in the last 4 years, I've lived in 4 countries. So I'm currently back home in the United States, but I also lived in Serbia, Hungary, Czech Republic. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I think when you leave your comfort zone, it vastly expands your horizon. So every place that was home for me, even if it was temporary, um, I learned things about the culture and also about myself.
Okay. So you're currently based in LA,
Yep.
right? And before you were where you find it your studio, it was Belgrade, right?
Yeah, so I came to Belgrade in the middle of the pandemic. It was October 2020. I started my first class at TS with 5 students, and then by the end of the first year, there were maybe 50 people.
Wow.
So
Also in the middle of pandemic. How did
in the
you
middle,
how
the
did you
middle of
manage
the
that?
pandemic, naivety. I just I followed my heart. So there was a Serbian man who I was getting to know long distance over FaceTime. And so after the pain of not the longing of being away from
Mhm.
someone, in physical proximity became so great. We finally had to meet in person. And then I gave up my apartment in Manhattan. I took 2 suitcases and moved to a country where I didn't really know anyone and didn't know the language. And The relationship didn't work, but the silver lining of that was that I started this studio, built it from the ground up, and just with a love of acting and wanting to share that knowledge with other people and to support their careers.
Mm.
Mm.
It's beautiful. Things we do for love. I
Things we
understand
do
that.
for love. Things we do for love. Yeah, that's true. That's how I met you. Because I remember, Valeria, you don't know this story, but I was on Facebook or something, and I was doing a Ava thing, and I was reading this text for some beautiful human being, which was Adam. I didn't know him at that point. And it was so motivating and gorgeous that what he wrote that I just, I wrote back and I said like, wow, thank you. And that was really inspiring and gave me a lot. And Adam, one thing you do is that you are never afraid to reach out. You are never afraid to take the steps, whatever it takes. And so you reached out to me. I remember that. And we're like, hey, would you like to try TS out? And that's how we met. Um, and I was, how many years? 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Over 3 years, we worked together. And you built in those 3 years. Please tell us about the start and how it has developed and where you're now with TS.
Yeah, well, the year one, I was I taught out of my own apartment in Belgrade. And when that place became too small, because there were too many people to fit in that living room and terrace, then I moved to another place that was bigger, and then by the end of the second year, I expanded into Budapest, and so Orga Studios, where they film everything from Dune to Blade Runner, partnered with them to do a monthly workshop, which then started to bring in people from the adjacent countries. So people would come in once a month from Bulgaria, from Austria, from Czech Republic. So it really became kind of a United Nations of actors. It was really quite something. And then I started being invited on the weekend to do workshops at other studios and institutions. So then I started going to Belgium and other places. So in the last 18 months, I think I worked in 10 countries. Most recently, Mexico, which is my first time there, and it was really incredible. My experience in Mexico, I had never really encountered a group of actors where, because usually in every group, sometimes there's a few actors who you have to fight to get into their hearts and really create a safe space where you give them permission to be vulnerable. But that was the first group where I didn't have to fight with anyone at all. I think the Mexican culture is very people live from their hearts, so
Mm.
they weren't afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we were able to do in 2 days was really quite extraordinary. And so then I left and I came back to LA. And then a few days later, they made me an offer to run their acting in English program. So I'm going to go back there in the fall for 3 months.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations. They're lucky to
really.
have you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I'm lucky to be there.
Wow. Well,
Mm.
you're talking now about all the classes in person, but we met online. So
Yep.
you were running this parallel, like you had physical and
Mhm.
also online program. Did that start the first year from the beginning on, or how did that evolve? Like, I'm just curious about like what were the steps, that you
Mm.
took
Mm.
from
Well,
zero to
I
like,
didn't, yeah. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing other than just like I'll figure it out as I go. So when you build something from the ground up or from scratch, you just start from where you are.
mm-hmm,
And so within three months after I started doing the my first in-person class in Belgrade, I started the online class. So I just put together a flyer, posted it on Facebook, word of mouth, reached out
Mhm.
to some actors who I already knew and invited them to, try to if they wanted to participate in that.
Mhm.
And it's just really developed from there. After each year, you kind of do an assessment of what worked, what didn't work, what can go better. And so the online program I think is pretty robust now because for the last year, since September, I'd only been doing online since I moved back to the States. And there's now classes Sunday through Friday.
Mm.
So,
Online.
online. There's a filmmaker lab on Sundays where we give feedback on scripts and development. There's a business of acting class on Mondays. Tuesday through Thursday are my scene study classes. And then Friday, I there's another group of teachers, Joe and Jen, who
Mm.
I've been working with for a few years. Joe Alberti wrote a book on the Gister technique, and they're also certified Alexander and Linklater teachers. So in the
Mhm.
fall, they do a class on Gister technique, and currently they're doing accent training to help them work on a standard American accent.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have them on the podcast, the two of
Yes,
them. So they
Oh,
are
cool.
they're amazing.
amazing human beings, and
Mm.
beautiful that one can work with them then online through
Yeah.
your program, your school. That's amazing. And you grew from what I know is like you said, like you started with, I don't know, 5 people or something,
Mhm.
but you grew pretty fast, like and big. Like it was like I think way over 100. Am I right? At one point, like
Uh,
how long did that take?
yeah, at one point there were over 100 active people, and then if you included the people in the workshops and private coaching, it was
Mhm.
like 200 people within 1 year.
Wow.
Within
So
1 year. That's
That's
crazy.
fascinating.
I mean, you do come from marketing, right? So would
mm,
you, or do you have,
I mean, I have a background in PR,
PR?
a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
worked on some Oscar campaigns, one of which worked out with the win for. So I
Tell
worked on
us about it.
I worked with Melissa Leo for 10 years. So she won the Oscar for The Fighter for supporting actor. So in fact, I have um, she gave me the envelope that they open when they announced her name.
Wow.
So she gave that to me because she was grateful for my, I guess, contribution. And so I like to show that to my students as a small reminder that this is a not a short distance sprint that we're running, that it's a merit, this
Mm.
career is a marathon. So this was an artist who at the age of 50 had a break. I don't even want to call it a breakthrough because she'd been working steadily, but in terms of that visible fame that so many people dream of for themselves, that happened after she'd already been working for 30 years steadily and in the trenches. So just to give people motivation, just to do their work the best they can, and their motivation should come from wanting to do the work just to be a good actor, and that above anything else will be the fuel that then gives you trajectory.
But you also mentioned that it was an Oscar campaign. That's the term, to be honest, that I hear for the first time. Could you
Okay.
please expand a little bit on that? So there were like some particular steps that she had to take working with you to be able to increase her visibility, or to how does this work?
So it's the Oscar race is like a political campaign in some ways because you have a lot the it's a saturated market. You have all these performances in films that have to be watched by the Motion Picture Academy, which is a group of about 5,000 voters, and they're comprised of in different branches. Now, you have a couple of considerations. One, how are you going to get a consensus among this voting body, and how are you going to get them to watch your movie when there's and that's why these studios do FYC, for your consideration campaigns. They spend millions of dollars on ads, screenings, events, parties. So our involvement in that. So the movie was released by Relativity and Paramount, and they had their own campaign for the movie, but they were also running Mark Wahlberg in the lead category. He was not nominated, but Christian Bale in supporting, Amy Adams in supporting as well. So with there being two actors from the same movie in supporting, generally there can be vote splitting that happens naturally. Melissa was coming off a lead nomination for Frozen River 2 years prior. That was very much a grassroots campaign. Sony Classics did release the movie and did have a campaign, but they were putting more energy into Rachel getting married with Anne Hathaway. So the grassroots campaign on Frozen River had to deal with just by word of mouth getting as many members of the actors branch of the Academy to see the movie, because to get the nomination, people in their own specific branches nominate the artist in their categories. So editors nominate editors, directors select directors. So I believe at the time, I believe there were around 100, and I think the numbers have changed, but at some point there were 192 actors in the actors branch. And so that was a controllable number of, and there's also lots of rules, and the rules have changed about how you can campaign. So at any rate, that worked out. She got the nomination, but for the fighter, we were hoping for a win. So we kind of did a do-it-yourself. We bought the back page of Variety and Hollywood Reporter. The reason being was that during the whole FYC season, actors normally get, like when you see an actor like Christian Bale on a magazine cover of GQ, that's all synchronized and coordinated to bring visibility to that performer. And so she was not getting any magazine covers, and she was told she was not box office enough, that she was too old, that she would, at the age of 50, that no one was going to buy a magazine cover with Melissa Leo on it. So we took matters into our own hands. And so that's why we bought these back covers, taking a cue from what Betty Davis did several decades prior when she was trying to reinvent her career. She said, two-time Academy Award, actress available for work. And so we did a photo shoot. A photographer went off with her one weekend, and the messaging in that photo shoot was to present a glammed up version of her. Because I said, she's always played these working class, gritty characters. That's like her archetype. And I said, they're not going to call your name. To go up and take that trophy, you got to show them, give them a taste of what you're going to look like in a gown and all that side of yourself. So those pictures leaned into that. Her name does not appear anywhere on the one sheet, and it just says consider. And it's her, like, there's one where she's kind of defiantly leaning forward in a black gown. There's another one in a faux fur where she's by a pool, and it just says consider.
That's smart.
So it was a kind of double messaging. It wasn't just about necessarily consider for the Oscar. So
Yeah.
consider her for other opportunities, consider her for a cover, consider her for roles that go beyond this
Yes.
working class archetype that she built her career on.
Yeah, very
Consider
good.
that she should be visible, also.
Yes, yes, to be seen. So,
Yes.
and this was in 2012. This was before the era of social media where it's quite normal now of self-promotion. So it made a lot of people the timing of it that I bought the ads. I placed the ads strategically so that they would go live the first week of AMPAS final ballots after nominations were announced.
Mhm.
We had bought that space maybe 6 weeks prior. So when we committed to the ad space, we had no idea that she would be the front runner because we were going off of you know the last time around. So she had won the Golden Globe, she won the Critics' Choice, she had won the SAG, she had won every precursor award up to this point. So of course you're always going to have a backlash or haters are going to hate. So the people who she was beating were complaining, she's so far, wow, she really, really wants to win. Why is
No harm
she
in that.
Exactly. I think that's
why?
true.
And so, oh, she's so desperate. There was a whole
Oh,
Mm.
but then a wave of support came to, it ended up working out in our favor. So, because then there was a counter narrative of, well, she's due for this, and why, of course, she wants to win. That's natural for anyone to want that.
mm.
So it became a dialogue, and I think in years past, time will tell in terms of film history if that impacted. There's smaller movies like Leslie Andrea Riseborough recently did a grassroots campaign where there were a lot of actors like Kate Blanchett who were openly campaigning for the actors. And like I said, the rules continue to evolve and change because I think the Academy. I'm not an Academy member. I'm in BAFTA, but I think to my understanding, they want to try to preserve the integrity of the process so it becomes campaigning should really be about um, not putting pressure on voters, but reminding them, oh, you need to watch this movie. And then the voter on their own should make their own
Decision.
judgments. Mhm.
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 Thank you so much for sharing this because I also think, for many reasons, of course, it's a fascinating story to listen and to understand how this process goes on. I think, like for our listeners, but also for me personally, it also teaches you that it's not sometimes enough to just do your craft perfectly. And if you want to go for a win, you have to go fully in, and you need to involve the people who knows what they're doing. Clearly, you're the right person to have in your corner, for sure.
Well, it
And
takes a
um,
village. Behind every artist, there's a whole team of people who help bring that vision to surface. It's the same
Mhm.
thing with making a movie. The director gets the credit for his or her film, but um, there's a crew. The typical crew on a Hollywood film is more than
mm,
40 people.
exactly, yes. Yeah. Moving from there, you spoke about Mexican people, which I wanted to go back to. Because I think this culture is really fascinating. And I really liked how you said that they really do things from their hearts. I had experience meeting recently three Mexican people, one we interviewed for the podcast. And it's something in them, I don't know, in their culture, in their way of life, maybe, and
Mhm.
how they see life. They're just bright. They have this light coming from the inside. But you said one thing that probably was even pre-interview, that you said that particularly men that you coach struggle more with opening up, being vulnerable. And can you speak a little bit about this experience coaching men actors in particular, maybe, and how male actors, and how do you go about it, and what's the difference? What sort of techniques and things that you use?
Sure. Well, I kind of created a niche and started my coaching career full time in Central and Eastern Europe, and these were countries that have survived communism. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one thing that communism did was, I think, as a as a survival mechanism, people had to repress um, their feelings, because if you were transparent about how you felt, you could even be in danger, right? And so
Yes.
that has a trickle down effect. And I think also another thing that communism did, that imparted, was this idea of learned helplessness,
Mm.
to some degree. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure, not just in these countries, but at large in the world, on men, in terms of a man is expected to project his masculinity in a number of ways through this display of strength, and so vulnerability is seen as a weakness rather than, as Brene Brown likes to say, vulnerability is a superpower. Vulnerability,
It is.
or Ivana Chubbuck, who I teach her method, um, says that vulnerability is the fuel that by which you win.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of actors, not just men, have walls that they put up, masks that they hide behind,
Mm.
because and what you have to try to do as a teacher or coach is create a space where they feel safe to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a core wound that where they learned, or they were conditioned, that if they were vulnerable, they could be punished for that vulnerability, that it could be weaponized against them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a lot of people come from uh, the world is the we go, you cannot go through the world without experiencing, or through life without experiencing pain. And so what that means is that everyone's carrying some form of trauma. Some people don't want to talk about their trauma, and they just put up the wall around that. Um, I like to think of actors as though we're like superhumans, in the sense that we have to be courageous and reveal what 99% of the population is too scared to admit, too scared to feel, too scared to reveal. And so it's doing a reframe,
Mm.
and giving the space where they feel comfortable, where they can step into that fully, and step fully into themselves. And then that gives um, inspiration. When people see that, they're moved by it. It
Yeah.
also gives them um, the opportunity to realize that they too can be vulnerable and not have to suffer because of it.
Mm.
So I'm obsessed with vulnerability. In fact, like, I want to, I one thing I work with in my actors is to in defining your brand. And I would say my brand that I'm now wanting to step fully into is, I want to be an embodiment of queer masculine vulnerability. That's who I am.
Can you tell us, thank you so much for going there, because exactly what I wanted to
Thank you.
ask. Can you tell us more about that? How do you do that? How do you embody it? How are you able I know you've gone through a lot of things, and you're very, very strong. At the same time, it's just that you're really open, which helped me as an actor in so many ways to level up big time. How do you stay vulnerable in midst of like a fucking hurricane? How do you embrace, as you said, now your brand? How do you do that?
So I just turned 41 a few days ago, and I've had to, it took me, so when I was 13 years old,
Mm.
uh, after my parents found out I was gay, I that was put in conversion therapy. And adolescence, well, obviously it was a great success, but no, they took me to two doctors. The first doctor refused to treat me. The second doctor I saw for 3 months, um, until that doctor recommended that my parents have family counseling instead, because he said it's only going to work if Adam wants to change. But adolescence was very, very difficult for me, taking the door off of my bedroom so that I was always feeling I was under surveillance. Um, I was not allowed to date during high school. So when I did want to meet men, I put myself in very like dangerous situations because I basically was meeting people off the internet and doing it covertly, and creating lies around where I was going so that I could just simply look for love.
Mm.
Um, and I also come from a background my relationship with my parents has evolved a lot. So I've really committed to that healing journey. So where I am with them now is different, has come a long way from where we started. But there was abuse in childhood, physical, emotional, mental, and so that pattern continued.
Mm.
I continued to attract abusive and
Mm.
emotionally unavailable men until I became aware that that was happening.
Mhm.
And each partner became a worse version of that until I had my reckoning and smacked in the face. And so the last year has been like perpetual consistent healing, and I can say I'm 99% healed. Like I'm at the,
Beautiful.
there's always going to be the one, you're always going to have the wound's always going to be there. It's just knowing
Mm.
what, having the recognition and awareness so that you don't fall back into old patterns. So um I've also been celibate for a year, so like that was a big part of that, having the space so that I could just focus on learning how to love myself. This is it's a
Mm.
huge thing of understanding that we are whole
Yeah.
and we don't need to any external validation in whatever form, whether it's physical touch or social media or a substance or it's shopping or whatever that thing is that we think we're gonna get it and finally feel okay with
Mm.
ourselves. It comes from in here. So it took me 4 decades to finally be okay with being myself. And so now that I'm able to sit in that and it also comes, like I said, from living from the heart consciousness, because we're trapped by our ego,
Yeah.
uh, uh, so, and so much. So when you live from your heart, it forces you to be brave. You learn how to be courageous, because again, a lot of people keep their hearts closed because we're
Mm.
afraid of rejection. We're afraid of what will happen if we're not loved equally back. But that's
Mm.
what unconditional love is, of to give the love and to not need anything back because you love yourself. So you're already complete. You don't need to get it from
Mm.
anywhere else.
Mm.
So now that I have that in myself, I'm writing a book with some of these ideas, and I want to be able to teach it because I think that's the biggest upgrade in my own teaching is that I'm committed to not just teaching acting to make them better artists, but using the time that we have together to heal them too.
Mhm.
Because if you're coming from an unhealed place, it keeps you small. It keeps
Mhm.
you in fear.
Which also then doesn't, as actors, we can't go there then. We cannot fully embrace the character. We cannot fully live it. And just also, I mean, I work a lot with intuition, obviously, and I always worked with you like that, is that it's kind of like channeling and you're not open for it then
Mhm.
because you're so protected, you're protecting yourself and then in your own way. But how do you embrace your own brand now? How do you like live that?
Well, I think authenticity is so important for being any kind of artist. So I think authenticity starts with awareness because if
Mm.
you don't know yourself and you're not aware, then you could be putting on masks and hiding behind them and you don't even know that you're doing it. That's the big thing. So there are people, for instance, that are hiding, they're being avoidant, they don't want to reveal. There are people that consciously know that they do that, and then there's people that they've relied on that as a coping mechanism to protect themselves, and they've been doing it for so long they don't even know that they're doing it. So
Mm.
awareness is the first thing, because once you have awareness, then you the because you're basically going through life. Your subconscious is running your life, then your ego's also running your life, and so you're doing stuff on autopilot. But then when you become aware, you not only see the patterns, then you also realize, oh, I can keep repeating these loops, or I can start to show up differently. When you
Mhm.
become aware is when you stop blaming, oh, I don't have success because this, or you stop comparing yourself to other people, and you realize that nothing in the external can change until you change internally about how you feel about yourself.
Mm. The way that you speak
So a
about
lot,
it is
so it's a
really
lot of inner work.
exactly, yes, it's really holistic. And I wonder if it's something that you said this is what the book is about, right? So this is your um, method or technique that you're using, that first the internal has to come first. That to become, the artist or the actor that you're meant to be, you have to first face all your insecurities, fears. You have to be aware at least, and then that's how you progress onto the next level, right?
Yeah, well, I'm 200 pages into this book. I'm still writing it, so I will see where
Where it gets you.
it talks about a lot of things. It's not just a book about acting. It's also a
Okay.
book about consciousness. It's also a book about quantum physics, which is
Okay.
something I am also very passionate about because quantum physics really gives you tools to understand the mysteries of the universe. When you think of someone and a second later you get a call from them,
Yeah.
Mm.
why does that happen? There in understanding the science of energy, which is really a big part of the work that we do. So,
Mm.
and I want to try to create a framework where artists not only understand energy, but they know how they can you directly in concrete ways integrate that into their work.
Do you have a wait list? Because I'm really in need of this book. Not even as an actor, but just like as a person.
For life.
Subscribe me.
Save me. Save us.
No, for real. I also wonder, like, how do you then direct actors? Do you try to like establish a personal connection? Do you observe them? What's the method that you are using with the actors?
Observation's really, really important. I think I first try to get a sense of who someone is and how they work and what they bring to the table. Um, Creativity can't exist if it's controlled. So
Mhm.
even if something's not working, I want to at least try to honor the first stab at it before then we start to take something apart. I think coaching is can be very similar to directing. Obviously, if you're on a set, there's a lot of there's the pressure of time and money. So, for instance, I might spend an hour, or I've even spent even longer on a scene.
There is a story there.
Tell us the story.
The time I might take on something in class, you don't always have that luxury of time.
Luxury.
So my teaching style has become pretty Socratic. I ask a lot of questions, sometimes to try to guide the person to uh, the direction that I want them to go. When I direct, though, I don't over explain things. I'm kind of I don't want to say ethereal, but I might just say like one small statement that then ends up changing everything. So it could be one little piece of information about their inner monologue, or how sometimes it might even be a physical adjustment. So I try to give them one concrete thing that then can anchor them into shaping it how it needs to be.
It sounds like that's where your intuition comes in too. I mean, your talent, your experience with coaching, but at the same time, because I could hear that you said you will give one thing, and you're not talking about just like inner monologues or something like that. You also said even gesture, body wise, or movement, so that you are just attuned with your actors and you kind of can feel what they need in that moment. Am I right?
Yeah, well, I think when you're in the scene with them, I'm trying to ascertain if you can feel the moments, because if I can't feel the moments, the audience not going to be able to either. So yeah, you can try to put a band-aid on the scene in the editing room, or bring in music and stuff, but like that, so I think the other thing too is the importance of presence, of being really present with your actors, is as also having worked. I've been on sets, as I know you have been, where they are off thinking about something else, and then you're kind of left by yourself. So that's not the director I am. And so I think I've always wanted to be an actor's director. So I'm really grateful that I wanted to direct my whole life. But I'm grateful for, I've been out of film school for 20 years. When I was 21, I made my thesis film, Midnight Sun. I made it with Tom Stern, who is he was Clint Eastwood's longtime DP. Um, Melissa Leo, that's how I met her. She was in my short. David Harbour from Stranger Things, April Grace. So I had a really good cast. Jack Mulcahy. Um, and I had a lot of, so that innate ability to see a scene, or to how to communicate with your actors. I had elements of that when I was at that age, but I think I needed these 2 decades of, one, studying acting and having experiences on set myself, and then evolving into coaching and teaching, so that now, 20 years later, when it looks like I'm in a position to finally direct my first feature, because I had a few near misses in my 20s. I'm much, much more well prepared than I would have been if that opportunity had materialized when I was younger. So everything always happens when it's meant to.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That
Yes.
is true. That it happens. How did you enter the film world? Like, how did this come about? You are a fantastic actor. Uh, just why you're an actor? Why did you even decide to start this journey?
well, when I was 12, I think it was 12, they were doing auditions for George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser in Chicago, where I grew up. And my best friend
Oh.
at the time,
I love this film, by the way.
Me too, by the way.
Sorry.
Sorry, I love it.
they were doing an open call, and my best friend Mike Flynn was going to audition, and I begged my parents, I want to go to this audition. I want to audition for this movie. And my father said, "Oh, you're too ugly to be an actor. No one will want to look at you." And so I internalized that, and there's a part of me that believed that for a really, really long time. I always knew that I always was in love with the movies. When I saw Star Wars for the first time, I was like, okay, so there's Darth Vader and Mark Hamill, but like, who puts that all together? And they said that's George Lucas. I said, I want to do that when I grow up. So I always had kind of the awareness of a director's vision, but I think I wanted to do it all. So like when I saw Woody Allen's Annie Hall in film school, I was mesmerized by. I was like, oh, this guy, he wrote it, he directed it, and he's a star. He's acting in it too. I want to do that. But it took a long time to give myself permission to explore that. So I think I studied film at Yale. I made that film I told you as my thesis, and I came out to LA the first time at the age of 22 with that as my calling card. And on the strength of that, I got my first agent and manager, and I was a screenwriter. So I sold maybe half a dozen scripts. They all went through the Hollywood maze, set up at different production companies, had something in development at Fox, had something in development with the Rush Hour producer, things at all different stages of development, big name actors attached to a number of them. So, but they never got made. They finally got one movie made as a producer, Furlough, uh, released by IFC, Whoopi Goldberg, Anna Paquin, Melissa Leo. So 3 Oscar winners in my first movie as a producer, not bad, but don't see it.
Not
It's a
bad.
comedy that
Don't see it. Did you say that?
it's a comedy that you'll be waiting the whole movie to laugh.
Okay. That makes me want to kind of see it.
Now we need to see it, Adam, okay?
I don't think it's very funny, but it's fine. It's just I think tonally it struggles with not knowing what the movie went through a number of directors.
Mm.
And, Lori Collier did a fine job directing it, but I think the script that she got reflected the voice of two other directors in it. So totally didn't really know what it wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So um, was it a dramedy? Was it a comedy? So I think it really just struggled to find its tone. And so that's okay. You always learn from that and on your next ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived in LA for 7 years, and then I just felt restless here because I wanted to act, and I didn't really see that the opportunity for that to get started was going to be here. So I went to New York
Mhm.
and I started studying, got into every class that I could. Um, Not that you can't be an actor in LA, just for me at that time, because I was already established here as, as a screenwriter, I needed to be in a new environment to challenge
Okay.
myself. And so I jumped off a cliff, so to speak, and put myself in a new environment again in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for 5 years. I got my equity and SAG cards there. I've worked on Theater Row. I worked in some really good stages in New York, Lincoln Center, Barrow Group. So yeah, and then the pandemic happened, and then I went to New York. I went to Europe. So just continued. Each environment put me in a place where I continued to evolve and learn something new from that environment.
Beautiful.
Wow. I think we're just impressed. We really
Yes.
are. Mm, what I want to ask you is, what's next? What's your current project, if you can, um, the amount of information that you can share, and what is in the work for you?
I'm starting to work on my what will finally be my first feature. So that's all I'll say for now, but it's looking positive. And I'm going to be running this acting in English program in Mexico City starting in the fall. I'm going to do that for 3 months. Writing and pitching new stuff. So I'm also starting to write again. I'm just fully stepping into the multi-hyphenate. So I have projects in the pipeline for acting, writing, directing. Um, I'm starting to sing again. I also was a recording artist. I released maybe 7 different projects on different
Wow.
electronic and house music labels in Europe. Um, so I'm starting to sing again and develop my voice again, but I'm gonna not do house music. It's different. I always had a love for jazz music, so I've been working with a band
Mm.
leader and arranging some music for that fit my voice. So
And you've been doing that. I saw that you've been like taking classes or something, or have you you were
those were just
posting.
I was just posting clips from those sessions with the arranger.
Can you
Yeah.
sing for us?
What would you like me to sing? Uh, and
Whatever you
now
want.
the end is near, and so I face the
Oh
final
my God.
curtain. My friends, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way.
Thank you. That
Thank
is
you.
so gorgeous. Oh, I love your voice. I hope for, our gorgeous listeners and those who are watching, hope you guys are watching. Adam is yummy, delicious, gorgeous human being. That you will give us all the links that we can like hear your music and connect with you and you know, look at like us and also how to connect with you, like Tia's, the program. So that will be the homepage, I assume, or the web page. And then we have all of those links for the show notes. I hope that we get that from you. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Okay.
Oh, that would be so amazing. I want to ask you something that is, we haven't really talked about this or touched this topic, and that is you as the actor. Which projects are you now currently shooting anything, or are you focusing still on that, or is that a little bit less as you are writing, directing, producing, you are coaching? How is that?
Well, there are one of the projects that I'm attached to direct is something that I'm also acting in.
Mhm.
So, like I said, when I was talking about Annie Hall and wanting to um, create from a place where I could truly be a multi-hyphenate and write, act, and direct. There's now synergy of where I'm in alignment with that original vision for myself. So it's a
Mm.
project that I self-generated, and it really gives me the chance to express my authentic self as an actor because I've day played for 10 years in film and TV and also done a lot of you know um, indie LGBT projects, but I was hungering for a role that allowed me to fully reveal who I am. And so this lets me, if you can either wait around waiting for that to happen, or you can, create your own vehicle. But just like people like Issa Rae and Lena Dunham and other multi-hyphenates. So yeah, you have to, if there's not a seat at the table, you gotta put yourself there. You make your own damn conference room. So
Yes, amen. Yes, that's
So yeah,
exactly.
totally. Yeah, so totally, I've had I've worked with some nice directors like, Ryan Johnson was wonderful to work with, and Olympia Dukakis, and a number of every director worked with, I learned something from. But now, I'm just ready for the next uh phase of my life. So um I'm very excited, and just continue to with each day see what the lesson and that is there to be gained, and
Mhm.
keep myself humble, and just keep working with my head down. So we'll see what's next.
We'll see what's next.
To this end, I want to ask you, is there any personal ritual or practice that you do daily, something that clears your head? Maybe you recheck in with yourself, or some, I don't know, even mind or body practices, or anything that you want to share for us and our listeners.
My spirituality is what grounds me. The other thing that's grounded me has been the gym, but really, more recently has been my spirituality. I get a double dose of it because I'm a Buddha, I'm a practicing Buddhist and a practicing Christian. And so I go to mass every week. I chant, I pray every day. So I really, it's just my own relationship with God that um really it comes front and center.
Why both channels? Like, as I would call a channel, like, we can come at it from any point, any religion. That's my opinion. But now you're doing it from two. Why?
Well, it's just like, why would someone be bilingual?
So
There are
that's for
different,
you how you see it.
yeah, they're just different languages of
Mm-hmm.
expressing,
Mm-hmm.
of understanding your relationship with the divine or with the universe, giving you a code and guidelines of how to show up for life as your highest self and
Mm-hmm.
to live in integrity with in harmony with others. So there's things
Yeah.
that really resonate with me from both disciplines. So
Mm.
I practice both.
You know, that's what I love, and that's what I love about you, is your openness. And there's never just this one thing, or just because someone said, this is the way you do
Mhm.
it, I'm a Christian, then you're a Christian. And you're like,
Mm.
why? No, I can be it all. I can be whatever serves me, and I am serving others. And I think that's beautiful that you're talking about it. And I have to tell you about an experience that I had the other day, is that I
Mhm.
myself I was like, I want to experience like religion from, you know, just other religions, like what, because I don't belong to one.
Mhm.
And I really, it was an interesting experience to experience something. They're called Sufis. So is that right, Valeria? I think Sufi or something. It's a Muslim religion.
Mm.
I like, there's not that I'm going to do it or that I'm just going to practice this or something, but I just had these gorgeous human beings that I met. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay. And they invited me to participate and join. And as I am, as you, just very open, I wanted to understand it. And what I've realized is, for me to understand things, I like experiencing it. And it was profound on so many levels. And because I felt like I was meeting myself more. I don't know, I was like detached from everything. And it was just like, I was like, oh, I'm here meeting this, you know, meeting God, meeting this energy, meeting whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, the universe. And after that experience, I'm like, I need to try Buddhism now. Like, I was like, I'm on a mission. Like, that was
Mm.
so interesting. I was like, thank you. And it was beautiful. I knew that I was just a guest for me. I knew this is nothing that I will practice, but it was really important for me to experience
Mm.
it, and beautiful human beings that I met.
Yeah.
And as I said, now you're talking Buddhism, I was like, that's the next thing I want to try. I
I
want to
think
experience.
it's very connected with what Adam was saying about being, in tune with yourself and with your intuition, because
Mm,
spirituality and like this door that opens your heart towards divinity, towards God. I've rediscovered it recently. I think there was a dark period in my life for like 7 years where I was completely in tune, out of tune with myself. I
mm,
didn't listen to what my body was telling me, my intuition was telling me. I was like, I'm gonna just like go with, I don't know, rational. What's rational? I'm gonna do what everyone else is doing. And that never worked for me because I'm really creative. I need to like be with the flow. I need to look for signs from the universe which are not like, you cannot rationalize them. You can only feel and be connected to them. And I think that's why I also lost touch with my spirituality. And now I'm rediscovering it. I'm also like, go to the mass, I pray, and it's just opening this door inside of you, and it guides you somehow, even if you cannot like fully put it into words. But I think this is something that definitely every creative person needs, through different, it doesn't have to be any organized religion, doesn't have to be any particular one, can be anything. But this
mm.
connection is something that really grounds you, as you said. Thank you for sharing it. It's really
Beautiful.
special. Like everything you shared it's gorgeous, and you are gorgeous. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I think the relationship between acting and spirituality is going to be a big uh, thing that I explore in the book for
Mm,
sure.
Mhm.
mm. Wow, I'm very excited to
But the,
read
the
that
title
book.
the title right now is called is well I'll tell you the title later. It's a good.
That's
The title
exclusive.
now is Secret, which is good. That's good. It's a good thing. There's beautiful energy around it. And as Valeria said, and I can feel it too, when you talk about it, I'm like, I want to read that book. Like,
Yes, for sure.
it's just like, I think that is something that we need. And I'm craving for it. Like this connection, this, as you said, like this deep sense of coming home, which is
Mhm.
you coming home inside, that just saying, I love myself.
Mhm.
I'm the one that gives myself love, and not still all need, I hope, I mean, some people maybe don't, but this external validation, sometimes I'm just like, fuck
Mhm.
it. Like, I'm like, because you think
Yeah.
you're so far and you're like, whoa, it's like, I feel so good. And I'm like very, because I practice a lot self-love and looking at it. And then at one point you get external validation. You're like, yay, damn it. So, but yeah, may I ask you one thing about Buddhism?
Mm.
How did you enter that world? That's me just being curious because
Yeah.
I kind of want to dive into it.
So, Vanessa Shaw, who is also an actor, and she was brought up in the Buddhism practice. She shakabuku'd me. So shakabuku'd means when you um, basically send an intention to someone that you want to introduce them through the practice. So she never even so she was basically this is like a quantum physics thing. She was um sending this intention to the universe that she thought that Buddhism might be helpful to me in terms of my own growth as a person. So then when I moved to New York, a series of synchronicities started happening.
Mm.
Um, Someone on the street handed me a copy of Siddhartha, and
Mhm.
and I was like, "What's this?" And I started like reading it, and then a few weeks later, someone said, they looked at me in the eyes and they said, "You are going to achieve Buddhahood in this lifetime."
Wow.
And then 2 months later, so at a coffee shop, I was talking to a filmmaker, or he's a DP, and he asked if I was a Buddhist, and I was like, "Why? Why'd you become a Buddhist?" And he said, "Oh, just you're very at peace and you're very Zen, and the way that you talk, you
Mhm.
talk like a Buddhist."
Okay.
So it kind of called you. It was like,
Yeah, yeah.
well, then I will see. I think it's calling me. We'll see. Ava needs to try everything out. This is a period I'm in now. I'm like, I need to try everything, everything.
Go for it.
It
Yes.
all. Thank you, Adam. This has been so gorgeous and beautiful. And thank you for your precious time and your
Thank you.
gorgeous voice.
Yes, that was the
Thank you.
first. Nobody sung on this
Oh,
on our
really? Oh, that
podcast. Yes,
was fun.
that was so beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
So, thank you
Okay,
so
well,
much.
have a great evening. I'm gonna go now start my morning here in LA. So,
Right, we have evening, your morning. Well, thank you.